Y'all got time for a story? If so, get in here, get in here, get in here. Sit down, get yourself a glass of something sweet or something a little bit strong, because you're going to want it for this story. This is one about someone who love bombed me and then ultimately tried to use me. And I'm going to tell you right now, so many of y'all have been through situations just like this, and hopefully my story can help you to never have this happen to you again, or if you've never been through this, hopefully so you will never have to go through something like this. All right, so get in here, get in here, get in here. I am Malcolm MJ Harris, and I help you live your best life financially, emotionally, and in every other way. And I use my stories to give you lessons and also a bit of a laugh and some entertainment, but it's always here to help make your life better. So I want you to picture this, honey, all right? I've always been a fabulous kind of gal. You see me, darling. I wear this kind of stuff just to get your attention, but also just because I like pretty things, and I'm a pretty kind of gal. So anyway, my pretty self was out and about this one particular night. I was a young gal, but I had just started to make money, okay? I was in corporate America. So I had this job. It was paying me such good money, and I'm like, okay, I got the money. I can go out. I can do my thing. I had myself a cute little condo. Life was looking real cute. I'm like, I did what I got to do, and now I'm living within the rewards of it. So this one particular night, I'm out with some friends. We having a good time, and I see this guy walk by me. And when he walks by me, you ever had somebody walk by and you just catch eyes with them and they catch eyes with you? So as he's walking by me, immediately we caught eyes with each other, and I remember looking up at him like this. Now, see, I'm not that tall. So when I see somebody who's tall, I always keep my chin down and look up at him like this, okay? Men like that, all right? So I'm looking up at him just like this. And I'm like, And so he walks by, he's looking at me. He licks his lips. My heart starts to pound. Boom, boom, ba boom, ba boom, ba boom. Now, where we were at was in a pretty narrow kind of place. So every time he walked to go to the bathroom, every time he walked to go to certain areas, he had to walk by me or vice versa. So he keeps on walking by me, and I notice he cannot be having to go to the bathroom that much. He don't need to go to the bar that much. And I start to question, like, maybe he's walking by me to get my attention. So he walks by, walks by, walks by. Then eventually, this guy comes up, a completely different guy, comes up and was like, excuse me, can you get the bartender's attention? I was like, okay, because I was sitting kind of close enough to get him. So I got their attention. And when I did that, he says, hey, my friend over there, he thinks you're cute. I said, really? And I look over to see his friend, and I'm like, please don't let his friend be like some kind of troll. So I looked over, and his friend was that guy. And I'm like, oh, your friend? And I was like, okay. He's like, so what you want me to tell my friend? I was like, tell your friend I think he's cute also. So he goes back over there, tells his friend that, and I can kind of see out the corner of my eye when he told him that, he was like this, trying to play it cool. He drinks his little drink. He kind of looks over at me like this, and he's smiling at this point. So the night goes on, and eventually, like, the bar closes down, and I'm wondering, like, why hasn't he come over to me to speak? I'm not going over to him, honey. I gave you that open door, so you need to come on over here. So as we're leaving out, his friend comes up to me, and his friend was like, hey, we're about to go someplace else. There's this after hours kind of spot that we're going to, everybody's going to be dancing, having a good time over there. Do you want to go? And I was like, okay, I can do that. I worked a real hard week. Yeah, I want to go out here and do that. And so I said, is your friend going? He was like, yeah, he is. I was like, well, can your friend finally come over and speak to me? So he comes over, and he was like, hey, how you doing? I said, I'm good now that you're talking to me. And that's the thing with me, okay? People always ask me how to flirt. I say, put on a big smile, put your softest, most feminine voice on, and be flattering. Make him feel good. People like to feel good and feel validated. And so I said, I'm good now that you're talking to me. And I always look you right in the eyes, right? And then he says, he's like, oh, for real? I was like, yeah. I was like, it's really nice to finally talk to you. I said, I was wondering when you were going to talk to me earlier. He said, I just was playing it cool. I didn't know if you was there with anybody or whatever. So I just wanted to, be careful. I said, why did you think I was with somebody? Nobody else was near me. He was like, nah, I saw other dudes looking at you, and I didn't know, I'm new here, so I don't want to step on nobody's toes. And I said, oh, where'd you move here from? He said, I moved here from Ohio. I said, really? He's like, yeah, I moved here from Ohio. I said, for what? He said, I got a job with the federal government. And this is back when we was living in DC. He said, I got a job with the federal government. And so, I'm just getting to know the lay of the land. And, the last thing I want to do is come up here and step on the toes if they, really want you. Because I can't imagine you being single. I said, well, I am single. I actually became single about 6 or so months ago. So, yeah, I'm single. I said, are you single? He said, yeah, I'm very single. I said, okay, that's cool. He said, so are you coming with us? I said, well, I mean, if you're going, I'm going. He said, cool. He said, where's your car? I said, why you need to know where my car is? He said, because I can ride with you or I can just meet you there. I'll ride with my friends. I looked them up and down. I was like, I feel safe enough. I was young, honey. You know, when you're young, you take risks. I said, okay, well, you can ride with me. He's like, yeah, okay, cool. I said, don't you have a car? He said, I do, but I'm waiting on it to be shipped here. Cool, whatever. So we get in my car, and as we're riding, you know, my music's on and everything like that. He's like, okay, I like your music. You know, it sounds really good. And so we're just chit-chatting. And as we're talking, there were a couple moments of silence. And I would notice in those moments of silence while I'm driving, I would catch him kind of just looking at me like this, like as I'm driving. Like he's looking at me. He'd look at my hand. He'd look at me up and down. I could just feel it. So, of course, you know, I'm just basking in that. I'm like, And, you know, it's like 2 something in the morning, you know. So, you know, everybody just is kind of in their own little zone, you know. And so I'm just driving. And so we pull up there. And as soon as we pull up there, I'm literally about to open the door. He's like, I was like, what? He said, I'm coming around to open the door for you. I was like, for real? He said, yeah. He said, when you with me, you don't open no doors. Remember that. You don't touch no doors when you with me. I said, okay, I'm already being flattered, honey, all right? Because, you know, I'm a girl from the South, okay? There's certain ways I like to feel, okay? And so I was like, okay. So he comes and opens the door for me, my little Honda Accord, all right, with the dents all in it, honey. You would have thought I was getting out of a Bentley, all right? He opens that door for me. I was like, I felt good. So I get out the car, and then we walk into the little spot and everything like that. And when we get in there, he says, what can I get you to drink? I said, I don't really want anything. You know, I got to drive home later. I'm good. He's like, okay, cool. You want any water, Sprite, ginger ale? I said, okay, maybe a ginger ale. So, you know, I'm standing right there. He gets me my little drink. He gets his little drink. We start talking and talking and talking. And before you know, we're dancing. I got my arms up around his shoulder and everything like that. And we just dancing, having a good time in there. It's a cute little spot, you know, little hole in the wall kind of place. We having a wonderful time. Before you know, a little slow song comes on and he buries his face into my neck. And we just up here grinding up against each other. Child, you would have thought we was teenagers at the prom. You know what I'm saying? We just here dancing, having a good time. It felt so good. He smelled so good. He was so built. And I realized why, honey. He was previously in the military and he always kept up his fitness routine. And if y'all know anything about men who've been in the military, oh my God, even women, they have a certain way of maintaining their fitness. And this man was built. Oh my goodness. So we dancing and dancing and dancing. After we left there, honey, we went to a little diner, got something to eat. It was all me and his friends and everything like that. And so, you know, the night is ending, honey. It's like 5 o'clock in the morning at this point in time. The sun is about to come up. And then he says to me, he says, so what you doing after this? I said, we done went to the after hours. We went to the diner. What else is there to do? What else is there to do? And he said, I can come home with you. I was like, And then he did that thing where, you know, they grab you right by the small of your back and pull you close. He yanked me in close. He's like, don't act like you don't want to say yes. I'm looking up at him. I was like, I don't know you. He said, you look like a feisty one. You can fight if you need to. He said, you can fight me all you want. I said, for real? He's like, yeah, for real. Ooh, the way he was licking his lips, girls. I said, let me see your driver's license. He go in his wallet, pull out his driver's license, right? I said, let me see your VA ID, right? Your VA ID or whatever card you got for the military. He pulled that out too. I pulled my phone out, took a picture of both of them, and I said, I'm sending this to 2 of my friends. If you try me, they already know who you are. He was like, oh, all right, cool, all right. So I said, cool, get in the car. So we went to my house. We laid down to go to sleep. And as we laying down, I got to take a step back. As we get in there to lay down and go to sleep, he says, so what side of the bed you want me to lay on? I said, well, I sleep over there. He's like, cool, I'll sleep over here. And so we get into bed and he says, I don't have nothing to put on outside of, you know, just my drawers that I'm wearing. I was like, so do you just want to wear that to bed? He said, I mean, I could, but if you have some shorts or something like that, that may be good, just, you know, an extra barrier. I said, okay, I got it. I was like, well, I do have some shorts over there that you might be able to fit. I don't know. And so he put the shorts on. He kept his shirt off. Honey, he had these tattoos and everything like that. His body was on point, baby, cut up. I'm talking Instagram model, okay? I'm talking this man is fine as I don't know what. As he's walking through the room, honey, you know who came to mind? Boris Kudrow. You know what I'm talking about? Boris Kudrow. Honey, this man is fine. He is tall. He is just muscular and everything like that. Everything from his calf muscles to the top of his head is just like on point. Oh my God, his skin was so smooth. And I'm just watching him, you know, as he puts on the shorts, as he goes into the restroom and then comes out to get into that bed. And when he climbs in the bed, he's a big dude. So when he climbs in, I literally felt the bed kind of just lean to his side a little bit, or maybe it's just I had a cheap mattress, I don't know. But I thought the bed just kind of leaned a little bit. He said, come over here, you're a little too far away. He pulls me close to him and wraps his arms around me, and then he just falls asleep, buried right there, you know, right there, honey, right there, right? I'm in the nook of his arm, but he in the nook of my neck. And he falls asleep. Now he don't snore, nothing like that. Now I'm worried, I'm like, oh my God, I hope I don't snore in his ear. But anyway, he falls asleep and I'm like, this feels so good. Wake up in the morning to him kissing on my neck, saying, good morning. Good morning. Now, normally I don't like no man to wake me up, okay? Don't wake me up, honey. Whatever you got going on in your mind or your imagination, we can cover that at noon once I'm awake if it's on the weekend, okay? But I don't need no 7 a.m. wake up calls, all right? Trust me, you don't want that level of feistiness. So we wake up and he's kind of waking me up and I'm like, oh, wow, this feels good. And so we sat there and talked. And one of the things that stood out to me immediately was that he didn't try anything. Now, y'all know what I'm talking about. If you ever spend the night with a man, okay, I feel like you on some level have to expect he gonna try something. Now that don't mean you gotta give into it, but you know a man is a man. They're gonna try something. That's why I say don't let him in your bed unless you are okay with them trying something. Because listen, it's just, I think it's just primal, right? So one of the things that stood out to me was that he didn't try anything at all. You know, we literally laid down and woke up in the same position and all that kind of stuff. It was so, I don't know, I felt a sense of safety with him. I didn't have to worry about anything like that. Not to say I wouldn't have been open to him trying something, but it just didn't go down like that. And so when we woke up, he said, what you got planned for today? I said, you know, I worked all week. I don't have nothing to do today. He said, cool. He said, well, I got to run some errands today just to kind of get my apartment ready. Would you want to join me? Now, if you know anything about me, quality time is it, honey. I will literally, if I like you, I want to go to Target with you. I want to go to the mall with you. I want you to come with me places. I just like spending time together. You know, I like to be wine and dine, but quality time is really important to me. So I said, you just want me to run around with you? He's like, yeah, I mean, I'm not ready to not be around you. I'm kind of enjoying you. So, you know, why can't we keep this going? I said, okay, cool. And I said, but you don't have anything to change into, you know, and you sweaty from last night. We was dancing, you know, your clothes are sweaty. He said, well, you know, we can ride over to my house. I'll change clothes and then we can just kind of go from there. So we went over to his apartment, and when we got to his apartment, it was kind of empty because he had just moved there. And like I said, his car hadn't even arrived. I think that he said he had been living in DC at that point for something like 5 days. He had just got there. So we went there. It was a decent apartment, nothing wrong with it, just kind of empty. So he got in there, he goes in some boxes, pulls out some clothes, takes a shower, irons some clothes, whatever, puts them on, and we're riding around all day. But when we got in the car, one of the things that stood out to me was when we were getting in the car at his place, he said to me, he's like, you mind if I drive? I said, sure, you know, my car's a little tricky, you know, she's kind of old, so, you know, just be careful with her. He's like, cool. He said, you know, when you with me, you don't got to worry about doing nothing, you know. He said, I'll handle the driving. The way I exhaled and sat in that passenger seat, honey, I leaned back. I was like, yes, this feels good, baby. So he's driving around. He's got his hand holding my lap the whole time. He just driving with his hand right here and just hold my lap. It felt so good, you know, I just felt cared for as we're going through the store and everything like that, just going through our day. Every now and then he'd come up behind me, kiss me on the neck, be like, what you looking at right there, blah, blah. He just was I don't know, he just was, no matter what he was saying, he just always found a way to touch me, make me feel good. We went home that evening, back to my home, spent the night there. The next day we spent time together, and then day after day, when he would have to go to work, every time he got off of work, he hit me up, hey, what you doing? Nothing, I'm at home. You want me to come by? Yeah, come on by. It felt amazing. Eventually, after like 2 weeks of this, you know what it was. You know what happened. You know what it was, baby. 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 When I tell you, it was baby, grade A. All right, now I'm gonna say this, okay? If you ever get some grade A, you know what, baby, be cautious, because I'm gonna tell you this right now. It ain't supposed to be that good. It's just not supposed to be that good, okay? If it is grade A, there's a problem. He is overcompensating for something, okay? There needs to be a flaw within your bedroom game. Something can't be right, because if everything is perfect, all right, something ain't right. But baby, I was too young and dumb to even know that, baby. It was perfect. I felt like this man was made for me, and by that time, honey, I was hooked. Okay, he wants to be around me all the time. Sometimes he just pop up at my house with flowers after leaving his job. Like, you got flowers for me? You know, he wasn't much a cook, but he'd come by, baby, don't even worry about cooking tonight. Cause I used to cook every night back then. He said, don't even worry about cooking tonight. You know, why don't we go out? His man was just on it. Sometimes, like, I would leave him alone in my apartment because I need to go do something that day or whatever, like on the weekend. Maybe I need to go run an errand. I come back home, my place is fully clean. He done cleaned my house top to bottom. He even dusted under the bed, stuff I would never do, right? And this man was amazing. This went on and on and on. Before I knew it, months had passed by, and he had never spent a night away from my apartment. Think about that. We met on that Friday night, and months went by, and we never spent a night apart, because every single day or every single night he was reaching out to me to be like, hey, what you doing? You want me to come by? Or I would be like, what you doing? And he's on the way over there. And I think that it was really, it didn't even feel forceful or feel pushed. It just was, we enjoyed spending time together. The connection and the intimacy was amazing. I had no desire to be around anyone other than him. And if there were ever a moment where I didn't think to reach out to him to come by, he was reaching out to me. Like 90% of the time, it was him reaching out to me to say, hey, what you doing? I want to see you. I miss you. Can I come by? And that felt good. It felt amazing. It was like, what did I do to be so lucky to have a man who checks on me throughout the day, who wants to spend time with me every day, who makes me feel, my God, who makes me feel amazing, right? He was charming. He was sensible. He was every good thing until I started to notice his flaws, all right? Whew. The first thing that I noticed about him was that he had two sets of phones. He had one phone, and he had this other phone that I didn't notice until his car arrived. When his car arrived from Ohio, I noticed that one time we were riding around in his car, and as we were riding around, I heard this boop, 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 boop kind of sound. And I said, what is that? And he's like, what? I was like, what is that? And I was like, it's a boop, boop sound. And so I opened his little, what do you call it, the little armrest thing where stuff is held at, and there was a phone in there. And I was like, oh, you have another phone? I said it very, very just kind of, it was benign the way I put it. And he was like, yeah. He's like, that's my old phone. I just keep it just because some of my contacts are in there. It was like a little flip phone. So I don't even know if you could transfer contacts from that to the kind of smartphone he had. So I was like, oh, okay, that made sense to me. I said, well, why is it beeping? He said, oh, because, you know, the only charger I have for it is a car charger. So I normally leave it in the car to charge up. And that way when I need it, I just grab it out of here. You know, it's just the only charge. It's an old phone. I said, okay, I guess that makes sense. Maybe you can't buy a wall charger that easy for it, whatever. So I just left it alone, but it still stood in the back of my mind just a little bit. Fast forward. We're out and about this one particular day. And as we're out and about, this kid walks by us, and this kid looked just like him. And I said, baby, I said, when you a daddy one day, I said, that's how your baby gonna look. I said, he looked just like you. And he said, oh, I'm already a father. I said, you are? Right? He said, yeah. I said, how old is your child? He said, oh, my son's about 7 years old. I said, 7? For real? He was like, yeah. I was like, is there any reason why you didn't mention that before? He said, oh, I thought I did mention it. I said, did you? He's like, yeah, I thought I mentioned it when we were first, you know, kind of hanging out. You know, remember when one of those talks we were kind of just laid up talking, I thought I mentioned it. When you didn't ask anything else about it, I figured you just weren't interested in knowing more about it. And I'm thinking, well, hold on, my memory is good. I don't remember you mentioning anything like this at all. And so I was just like, okay, I don't remember that, but I just took one for the team because I was like, maybe I wasn't paying attention when he said it to me. But it still stood out to me in my mind. So that was kind of strange. But, we got home that evening. I remember he was in the kitchen with me while I was cooking. I remember this. He was in the kitchen when I was cooking. He comes up behind me and wraps his arms around me, kisses my neck, puts his hand out to turn off like the burner on the stove because I was in the middle of making something up there. He turns it off. He grabs my hands. He says, "Come with me." I said, "Okay." So I go with him into the bedroom, and baby, that was the best yet. It was the best yet. I was like, what did I do to deserve this? Okay, it was out of nowhere, right? It felt so good. What I now realize is the strategic timing of that. Because what happened was, remember, I had pointed out something that was an inconsistency with him, which is, you didn't tell me you were a father. He tried to gaslight me into believing that he did tell me it. I was kind of fooled by that. And then when we got home later that evening, he then, you see what I'm saying? Put it down. I'm gonna put it down. You're gonna fall in love. I'm gonna put it down. You're gonna fall in love. That Brandy song, that's what he did, right? And so I didn't know that at that time, but it was another type of love bombing. And you gotta pay attention to that, because when people do wrong, sometimes what they do as a way to make up for it is that's when they wanna give a gift. That's when they wanna use that gray day, you know what? They wanna do things to distract you from it. Then fast forward from there, about a month or so later, we're sitting here, and I remember he had just gotten off a call about something, and he said to me, he's like, "Babe," he's like, "Can I talk to you about something?" I was like, "Yeah." He's like, "My landlord is just really, really being crazy with me, just giving me problems and so on." He's like, I want to propose something to you." I was like, "Yeah, sure." He said, "I've spent the night with you pretty much every night since we met, and it's been months now." I was like, "Yeah." He said, "What you think about us living together?" I thought about it, and I'm like, I love being around this man. I love everything about this man. I love the way he touches me. I love the way he makes me feel. This is amazing. So I said, okay. Of course, I got to the money. I was like, but in terms of the bills here, you would pay half of that, right? He's like, "Yeah, absolutely." He's like, which works out really good for both of us, because if I'm paying half the bills here, you save money, and half of your bills here is less than what I pay at my own place. So it works out really good for us both. But yeah, I just think, I'm always here with you anyway. I already know you the one. I was like, I'm the one. He's like, "Yeah, I already know you the one. You the one I want to spend my life with. So what we waiting on? Some people gonna say we rushing it, but come on, we already together anyway, and you know what you feel towards me too, don't you?" I was like, "Yeah, I do." He's like, "So let's just do it. We already doing it, so let's just make it official." And I was like, "Okay, we can do that." And so we went to his place. He never had no furniture ordered there, because remember, he was with me all the time anyway. We went to his place, picked up those boxes and everything that was over there that night, brought him into my place, and from that moment forward, we were living together. And it seemed like from the moment that we started living together, the moment I gave him a key, because he didn't have a key before then, from the moment I gave him a key, I felt like something shifted. We got into our first argument not one day after he got the key to my place, right? Because I remember I had to notify the people at the desk that I was letting him live there with me, because I had to give him a key, but also they had to do like the thing to put him on the list so that he can get it in and out easily. And it was like the next day, that's when I started to notice, hold on, something's a little off. We got into some petty argument about something small, and it threw me off so much because we never argued about anything. And I was just like, hold on, where is this coming from? But whatever, I kind of ignored it. It was a once in a blue moon kind of thing, because it never had happened before. I ignored it. We made up. The makeup was amazing. Amazing. In fact, after that amazing makeup, I remember him saying, "Babe, I'm gonna be back." He leaves out, and then he comes back a couple hours later, which was cool, right? Comes back a couple hours later. When he comes back, he's got this nice box, right? Like he had gone to one of the department stores. Inside of that box, he had this like little leather laptop case in there that was for me. He's like, yeah, I noticed the bags you take to your job, it don't really look nice. It's the one that they gave you from the company. So I want to get you something really nice to take to your job. And inside of that case, right, was a little card in there saying, I love you and I can't wait to spend forever with you. It felt so good. But what I didn't recognize was that I was being love bombed. There was a pattern that was developing that every time he messed up, he would go ahead and overcompensate and overfunction by buying me gifts, by laying on the intimacy real thick, by giving me that grade A, you know what. I was being love bombed. I was being hypnotized really into being distracted from clear issues that I noticed with him. So time goes along and we started having arguments more and more frequently. But each time we had an argument, what would happen was that he moved from buying me gifts at this point in time to now trying to turn it around on me. When we'd have an argument about something, then I noticed that after the fact, he would give me it was the same pattern. He would give me the silent treatment for like a day, which is really hard when you're living in the same house as somebody and they don't want to talk to you. And I'm trying to talk to him. He's like, listen, everything can't be on your terms. I'll talk when I'm ready. You can't create issues with me and expect me to talk. And I'm like, I created an issue with you. I mean, I ain't perfect, but I created this issue. And so for me, what I would do, because I didn't know any better at that time, was we'd have an argument and then he'd give me the silent treatment for a day or two. And then I would come to him like, baby, I'm so sorry for my part that I played in this. Can we make up, blah, 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 blah. Then he'd be like, all right, well, I'm sorry too, and I'm trying my best, but baby, I need you to try harder. And I would buy into this. And we had this pattern of argue, silent treatment from him. I try to be the bigger person and apologize. He reluctantly accepts the apology, but still finds a way to turn it around on me to make me feel like it was my fault. I remember one time he had gone off me, and this is the first time he put his hands on me. He had gone off of me, and as I'm walking away from him, he grabs my arm and yanks me back. And I'm like, whoa, but when he yanked me back, it was like a lamp on a table that I bumped into. And so that fell off, it broke. It was just a very dramatic scene. And I was like, oh my God. He says to me, he's like, look what you made me do. Look what you made me do. I was like, I was shocked because he grabbed me. He said, I told you, don't walk away from me when I'm talking to you. I told you that. I told you that's the one thing you don't do. I need you to stay close to me because when you walk away from me, I feel like you're about to leave me and I feel like da-da-da. He starts crying. And I feel like you're going to leave me and I feel like you're going to do this and I don't want you and I love you and blah, 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 blah. You're the only person in my life. You know I'm not close to this person. You know I'm not close to my mother and my father. You know that. And you know I'm not able to have a relationship with my son because of his mother. You know that. And so when you walk away from me, you trigger me. So now I'm feeling all bad like, oh my gosh, like I'm traumatizing this man. I'm hurting him, right? And then I would end up apologizing for that. And then it would just go on. This was a cycle that kept going. But let me say this, honey, all right? When you come for my coins, that's when I take notice, okay? I may have been up under the love spell, but baby, this is when I start to kind of catch on, okay? Something ain't right. I was in my 20s. All right, so I was in a whole different mindset back then. I wasn't as sharp. Now I am sharp. That's why I teach all these lessons, okay? So I come to him this one particular month. He was supposed to give me his part of rent by like the first of the month because that's when I pay my bills. I said, hey, I need your part of bills. He says, hey, I've been meaning to talk to you about that. Can you take care of my part of bills this month? I said, what you mean? He said, yeah, I had some things come up. I had to send some money for my son and blah, 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 blah. There were some things that came up. So can you take care of my part of bills this month? I promise to pay you back later. I said, when is later? He said, can you do it or not? Are you trying to make me feel ashamed or something? Dang, I'm coming to you as a man. Can you just help me this one time? Why you got to make me feel like this? He goes off on me. I was like, no, I'm not trying. Then why? Is it a yes or no? Is it a yes or no? If it's a no, I can go somewhere else and get it. I'm just asking, I'm coming to you first. You tell me you want me to come to you about my problems and not shut down to you, and I come to you about my problems, and then you do this to me? I said, I was just asking. He's like, is it a yes or no? I said, yeah, it's fine. It's fine. It's fine. He's like, all right, dang. He's like, I gotta go. You're not gonna make me feel ashamed of being a man who asked for some help. He leaves out. He didn't come home that night. He didn't come home till the next day, okay? He didn't come home till the next day. Do you know how much torture it was inside of me, sitting up all night trying to call him and text him repeatedly? Because that's what I was doing, calling and texting him. Hey baby, you okay? Hey baby, I'm so sorry. Because again, I'm in my 20s, I'm under a love spell. I'm believing that something's wrong with me. He doesn't come home to the next day. When he comes home the next day, he comes in silently, and guess what he did when he came in? He acted like I had done something wrong. He comes in there, yo, what's up? I'm like, hello? And he's like, yeah. And he just goes in there. Didn't email come for me? I was like, yeah, that. Okay, cool. And I was like, can we talk? I'm not ready to talk to you right now. You're not ready to talk to me. I'm not ready to talk to you right now. I said, okay. All right. He said, you know what? Because I hope you had time to think about this. Because, you know, for me, I was so upset with you. I couldn't even come back here. You know, ain't nobody ever made me feel that ashamed before. I'm like, I wasn't trying to make you feel ashamed, but you did. But you did make me feel ashamed. I remember him yelling that at me just like that. But you did make me feel ashamed. I said, I'm sorry. So he's like, sorry ain't enough. I need time. You know, I came back here because I felt like it was the right thing to do, but I don't even know if I should be here right now. I'm like, no, don't leave. You know, I'm like, don't leave, because I've been feeling like I was literally tortured. I could barely even sleep that night waiting on him to come back there. We went to bed that night, woke up the next day. Couple days won't go by. Things started to feel a little bit better. We became intimate again. Of course, it was amazing because that's what he did. Every time we went through something, the intimacy was amazing after the fact. And it felt like things were going okay. I was relieved that we just were getting along again. You know what I mean? I was relieved by that. Couple weeks go by, and I remember we was at the grocery store, and the way that we handled the bills at the grocery store was like this. Because like I said, I cooked a lot. So we had a big grocery bills. Whenever we was at the grocery store, when we would get to the counter or whatever, you know, I would swipe my card, we would see how much it came out to, and then he would just cash at me for half of it, or use Zelle, one of those things, to pay me half of it right then and there on the spot, right? It was very easy and simple. So we get out the store, and as we're going to the car, you know, I'm pushing the basket, and I'm waiting on him to cash at me. I didn't ask for it, but it was kind of my expectation. And he was like, oh, I forgot to mention to you, I'm gonna have to give you my half a little bit later because I'm waiting on something to come through. I said, waiting on something to come through? You work for the federal government. Your check come on the same schedule all the time. I didn't say that out loud because I knew that when you call him out, he goes off and runs away. So I was like, I didn't want to go through that again. And that's what you got to pay attention to. People who are narcissistic, they use silence as a weapon. They use it as, or rage for that matter too. They use it as a weapon to try to scare you into, or try to train you really into not holding them accountable. So what they do is by doing that, the next time that something comes up for you to hold them accountable for, you think twice about holding them accountable, because they're either going to go off on you or they're going to disappear, and you don't want to deal with either of those things. So I thought about it because I was in that mindset, and I was like, oh, okay, I wish you would have told me before we came here, because we could have got less stuff. He's like, really, this again? I'm being vulnerable with you. I'm telling you my situation, and you making me feel bad. Come on. I'm not saying I'm not going to give you the money. I was like, it's cool. So we get in the car. He being quiet, acting just like, just give me the silent treatment. I remember as he's driving, he turns the music up extra loud. Like, what is this? This man was nothing like the man that I remember from those earlier days of dating. It was so bad that I started to even be less attracted to him. I just didn't want him to touch me sometimes because I didn't like the way I felt around him. So what I did, because I was really confused, I would sometimes wonder, is it really my fault that things are going this way? Is what he's saying about me true? Because when you really love somebody, your guard comes down with them. And that's why you got to be careful who you let into your heart. Make sure that they're emotionally healthy before you let them in there, because your guard can come down. And if you are an empath, a compassionate person, just a good human being, when you see hurt in the person that you love, you can't help but start to self-actualize and wonder, what can I do different in order to not make this person feel that way? Some people call it codependency, but for me at the time, I just called it being loving. I'm like, well, dang, what am I doing wrong? So I just started thinking, is there something I can do different? So I even signed up for therapy. I signed up for therapy because I was like, I need to work on me, and if I'm making this man feel like this, I don't want to ruin a good thing. He lives with me, and we're building a life together. I love this man. I'm in love with this man. So I went to therapy for the purpose of figuring out what can I do to be a better partner. And I know some of y'all are watching this right now. You're like, oh, come on. You should have saw the signs. Baby, I was in my 20s. I didn't have a lot of relationship experience. I had come from a childhood of trauma that gave me abandonment issues, all kinds of stuff like that. I had my stuff, and sometimes our stuff blinds us to seeing the reality of what's happening right in front of us. And some of y'all are sitting up here who are double that age, and y'all still doing the same stuff. I'm trying to give you this so I can show you how I got out of it and how I got through it. So I went to therapy. And in the first couple of sessions of therapy, I just talked about him, and talked about our relationship and how everything wasn't going well. And she said to me, she says, in this session, it was like by a third or fourth session, she says, I want us to do something different. I said, well, what you want to do different? She says, I only want to talk about you. I said, but I've been talking about me. What are you talking about? And she says, no, you come in here and you talk about your relationship. I want you to talk about you. How do you feel? I said, well, what do you mean? She says, no, you tell me about how you feel like you made him feel and how you want to be better for him and how you want to learn how not to trigger him and blah, blah, blah. But how do you feel? I was still kind of puzzled. I'm like, what are you talking about? And she says, I'll give you an example. You told me last week y'all got in an argument and he stormed out of the house and didn't come back for like 6 hours. And when he came back, he smelled like he had liquor on him, like he had gone to the bar. I was like, yes. And so I said, yeah, that was when I was asking him about money that he needed to pay me back because he had missed another month of paying me, half the rent. And he had gone off from me, and then he stormed out. And so she says, okay, how did you feel? I said, I was scared that he wasn't gonna come back. She says, okay, so you were scared that he was gonna abandon you? I said, yeah. She says, do you believe that he is aware? Do you believe that he's aware that you felt that way? I said, no, he wouldn't know that. And she says, I beg to differ. She says, when he has stormed out in the past, what do? I said, I called him, I texted him, try to get him to answer the phone when he comes back home. I immediately like, where were you, blah, blah, blah. And she says, exactly. You are showing him very clear indicators that when he storms out, when he gives you the silent treatment, that is triggering for you, that it scares you, that it hurts you. So he is aware of how it makes you feel. And what I want to ask you is, how do you feel knowing that he is aware of how he makes you feel in those moments, and yet he continues to do it? He knows that that's emotional torture for you, and yet he continues to do it. I said, he's not doing it on purpose, like he's hurt and he just doesn't know how to process his emotions. She says, don't give him no pass. Because the fact of the matter is, you're not perfect either. But what have you done to him to purposely trigger him? What have you done? I said, I don't think I've ever tried to purposely trigger him. She said, exactly. So because you're aware of how he may respond to things, you walk on eggshells to try not to trigger him, and yet he still gets triggered. Well, at least that's what he tells you. Now, he's also aware. This is what the therapist told me. She said, he's also aware of what triggers you and hurts you, and yet he still does it. Does it appear that he walks on eggshells to try to do anything different? I said, not really. She said, when you ask him to do things different, when you tell him how things make you feel, what does he do? I said, I guess he kind of turns it around on me and makes it my fault. And she said, exactly. Okay, and I want you to picture my therapist, okay? My therapist was this full-figured African-American woman, okay? She was big earrings, just a full-figured kind of woman, big bag, big hair, okay? She very much so gave you motherly energy. You see what I'm saying? And she said, I want to ask you something, baby, because she's called me baby. She says, I want to ask you something, baby. I said, yeah. Why don't you believe that you deserve better than to be in a relationship with a man that's using you? I said, what? She pushed that tissue box over to me because she knew it was about to come. She said, why don't you deserve to be in a relationship with somebody who's not using you? I said, he's not using me. Why would you say that? I almost got mad at her. And she says, this ain't about me, baby. This is about you. You missing a lot of signs here, and we need to get you there quickly. All right? This man is using you. He's manipulating you. He's controlling you. There was a part of me that knew that I should be listening to her. But there was also a part of me that didn't want to hear it. But something in my gut told me to ask her this one question. I said, why do you think that? She said, well, I'll give you some examples. She said, he's using you because he's a full, able-bodied grown man who goes to work and has a good job that pays every time on time. The government ain't never missed a check. And yet and still, he's developed a habit of overspending his money and having you pay the bills. She says, how many times does this happen? It happened a lot by that point. She says, so basically, by being with you, he's able to live beyond his means and have you take care of his bills. Have you ever asked him, why is it that he never seems to have enough money to pay for his part of the rent? I said, I've tried to, but he goes off on me, so I just don't ask about it. I feel like, he's told me that's his business and he don't get my financial business, so why should I get in his business? She says, no. He doesn't have a right to get in your financial business because the fact of the matter is you're not asking him for money in order to pay for your part of the bills. He's asking you for money, and therefore you have a right to ask him what's going on with his finances. And yet he turns it around on you and manipulates you into believing that your honest questions about his finances are somehow or another you being nosy or overstepping boundaries, when the truth of the matter is he's overstepping boundaries by not respecting the fact that he agreed to pay half the bills, and he consistently doesn't do it. He's using you and manipulating you with guilt from holding him accountable. I said, okay. Are there any other examples that you have? She said, yeah. He's manipulating you real good. I said, how? She said, because he knows your love languages and he markets to those. She said, one of your love languages is physical touch. Him being so good in that arena is because of the fact that he knows that distracts you from whatever he had previously done. She says, have you ever noticed that your best intimate experiences with him often follow a fight, often follow a disagreement, often follow him going away from days at a time, and when he comes back, that's when you get the best loving of your life? You never noticed that trend? I said, I always figured that was just our way of making up. She says, no. That's manipulation. He knows that distracts you. He knows that numbs you. And that's what he uses. He made it into your drug. He became your drug. Whoa, that blew my mind. That blew my mind. She says, I noticed another way that he manipulates you as well. I said, there's more. She said, there's more. She says, every time you try to hold him accountable, have you noticed that he's a slippery one? I said, what do you mean? She said, what he does is every time you try to hold him accountable, have you ever noticed that he either uses rage or silence to respond to you? I said, okay. She said, yeah. When you hold him accountable, he's either going to go off on you or he's going to disappear, or he'll do both. He'll go off on you and then disappear. I said, I just always thought he had trouble controlling his temper. She says, no, he don't do that at his job. He not going off on his boss and walking out, or else he wouldn't have a job. So clearly he knows how to control himself in certain spaces, because certainly there are people who trigger him at work. He knows how to operate in other parts of society, not doing that, but he does that with you. He goes off on you because it's very intimidating to you. He's a bigger man. You're not going to step to him if he's going off on you. That's true. And then he gives you the silent treatment as a way to make you be more focused on his absence and more triggered by the idea of him abandoning you, so that you'll be distracted from what he actually did. Then he pops up later acting like nothing happened, or for that matter, acting like he was the victim, so that you're forced to either apologize to him or play into what he really wants, which is acting like nothing happened. And then he gives you that good intimacy again to numb you and distract you, and now y'all back to the same place and the cycle continues. I sat there just like this. And she said, baby, I got a question for you. And I was looking down at the ground. I don't think I really heard her. And she says, look up at me. I looked up at her. She says, I got a question for you. I said, what's the question? What are you going to do about what I just shared with you? I said, what do you mean? She says, what are you going to do about these truths that you're finally ready to accept? I said, how do you know I'm ready to accept them? She said, because if you weren't ready to accept them, you wouldn't have listened to me. You could have gotten up and walked out of this session a long time ago if I was saying something that was truly offensive or not true. I gave you information that confirmed what your instincts were already trying to tell you. Now, what are you going to do about it? I said, I don't know. She said, well, until you do know, understand that every single day that you stay with him, you are giving him an opportunity to hurt you more and more and damage you more and more. And here's what you want to be careful of, that you don't let this man damage you so much that when he eventually leaves you, whoa, I said leaves me, she says, yes, he's going to be the one to leave you. Because there's no way that a man can respect you. I don't even think he respects you now for you allowing him to treat you this way. So eventually when he uses you up and no longer is able to respect you, because that's what narcissists do, and I do believe he's a narcissist, he's going to leave you and abandon you and make it your fault. And when that day comes, you're going to be so damaged and hurt and even jaded that you won't be able to date again for quite some time. And if you do date, you could end up becoming a toxic person to somebody else, because now the anger, the pain that you couldn't express to him, you're going to express to other people. So what are you going to do? I said, I don't know. She said, well, I'm here for you until you decide. As I drove home that evening in silence, driving down the street, I remember driving, it's like I was an autopilot. I don't know how I got from her office to my house. I kept thinking about that question, what am I going to do? What am I going to do? What am I going to do? I hoped that everything she was saying was wrong. I even for a second considered not going back to her. I was in denial, but I also was moving into a place of acceptance and anger that I let myself go through that. So when I came into the apartment and I walked in, you got to remember, narcissists and people like that are very sensitive to your energy. So when I came and I immediately walked in, took out some food to start cooking, and he was like, you ain't gonna say hi? I was like, oh, hey, baby. I didn't even notice I didn't speak to him. Normally I came in, give him a hug. I said, oh, hey, baby. I said, I'm so sorry I was late and I just wanted to cook. He didn't know I was going to a therapist. So I was late and I just wanted to get some things cooked. He's like, cool, how was your day? I said, it was cool. He said, where you at? Where you been at? You've been coming home late, sometimes, these last couple weeks. I said, oh, well, sometimes I'd be working late at the office. I come in there for those client projects and sometimes I'd be late there. And so that's all that is. He was like, oh, all right. And he was like, I want to ask you something. I said, yeah. He said, I was just, wondering, is it possible that I can give you part of the utility bill a little bit later on? I got something going on. I took a deep breath in because it was so close to exactly what she told me I was experiencing from him. And I said, again? He said, what? I said, again? He said, you're not going to do this. You're not going to do this. You're not going to do this to me again. He's like, you're not going to do this again. You're not going to make me feel small as a man just because I'm asking for help. I got issues with my son's mother. I got this going on. I got that going on. You're not going to do this to me again. And I turned towards him. I said, no, you're not going to do this to me again. I'd never held him accountable like that. He stands up off the couch, stands up. He's like, what did you just say? I said, you're not going to do this to me again. And I did the one thing you should probably never do with the narcissist. I called him a narcissist. I said, you're a narcissist. Say it exactly what my therapist said. I said, you're a narcissist and you're trying to manipulate me and you're trying to use me. I just let it all out. Let it all out on him. I had nothing. There was no filter. Baby, before I know it, he was standing by my dining room table. He knocks everything off the table. He said, you're not going to talk to me like this. You're not going to blah, 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 because I will leave you. I will do blah, 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 blah. I will never come back here. You're not going to do this. You don't deserve somebody like me, and blah, blah, blah. He's going off. And I'm witnessing this. I was like, woo-wee. I said, you always been this way. You sick. You sick in the head. Something wrong with you. Because now all this anger from the pain I had dealt with from him from all this time, now it's coming up. I'm like, you sick. Something wrong with you. He's like, nah, you sick. Something wrong with you. He's like, every time I say something, he said it back to me. I said, you the problem. He said, no, you the problem. You the problem. You ain't gonna never find nobody as good as me. I treat you good. I'm a good man. You ain't gonna never find somebody as good as me. He said, I will leave you and never come back here. I said, like you always scare me with, like you always threaten to do. He said, don't play with me. He said, I will leave here. And he walks up to me and gets right in my face. Like he's standing over me because he's taller than me. He's standing over me. He says, I will leave you. I said, why are you in my face like that? He said, I want to make sure you hear me. And as he's talking, I remember his spit coming out. He was so close to me that his spit literally touched my eyelash. I could see it on the tip of my eyelash, but I didn't blink. I didn't blink at all, honey. You would have thought I was Anime Bullock, honey, all right? And we was in that car in Dallas before she went off on him. Y'all know what I'm talking about, that scene. And I'm sitting there. I said, get out my face. And I'm scared. My lip was quivering. I said, get out my face. He pushed in close with his chest pushed up against me. You gotta remember, that's what a narcissist will do. Okay? That's what a sick person will do. When they can't control you in one area, they will try to dominate you in whatever way they can, even if it's physical or threats are physical. I said, get out of my face. He said, I ain't gonna do nothing. I said, get out of my face. He said, I ain't gotta do nothing. And so I go to push him back away from me, like to push him away from me, because he's touching me at this point. And he grabs my wrist and yanks him. He's grabbed him so tight. I mean, it hurt. He was squeezing, and I had a watch on and a bracelet, and he squeezed it so it really hurts, right? And he's squeezing so tight. He said, don't you ever put your hands on me. He said, if you ever put your hands on me, he said, I will beat the out of you. I said, you will what? He said, if you ever put your hands on me, I will beat the out of you. I said, get your hands off of me right now. Get your hands off of me right now. And I didn't know what else to do but talk really loud, because the walls in my building were relatively thin. And I said, if you don't get your hands off of me right now, I will talk louder and louder, and eventually the police will come here. And I'm going to tell you right now, you a big man. And I don't think they're going to treat you too nice if they have to come up here. Get your hands off of me right now. He let go of him. He said, you know what? F you. I said, F me? He said, yeah. He said, you ain't. And you know what? I don't want to be with you. I felt so triggered. I said, you don't want to be with me? He said, no, I don't want to be with you. I said, then get out of my house. He said, I ain't got to go nowhere. My mail come here. I ain't got to go nowhere. I said, is that right? He said, that's right. He was already like in his boxes. He goes into the bedroom, gets in the bed, pulls the sheets up on him, and gets in the bed. I don't know what got into me. I don't know what got into me. I don't know what got into me. But what I did was I walked in that bedroom and I said, get out of my house! And when I said that, he looked at me, and he looked at me the way he never looked at me, because, honey, what I felt was rage. And big or small, when somebody feels rage, watch out. I said, get out of my house, get out of my house, get out of my house. I've been screaming. There's no way the neighbors didn't hear me. He looks at me like this. I yanked the sheets off the bed, and I grabbed his arm. I'm trying to pull him. He won't get up, so I grabbed his legs, and I'm dragging him off the bed. He fell off the bed. I remember hearing his body go boom, thump on the ground. I said, get out, get out. I'm trying to drag him. Honey, I was Anime Bullock. And he was like, I said, get out of my house. And I'm trying to drag him, and I'm dragging him, and I'm screaming, and I'm yelling. I said, get out of my house, or I'm calling the police. Get out, get out, get out, get out, get out, get out, get out. I scared him so bad that all he could do was he grabbed his pants, grabbed his shirt, grabbed his wallet, grabbed his keys, and he just runs out the door, runs out. He's looking at me like, you crazy. He looks at me and he leaves. And when he leaves, I didn't hear from him that night. I didn't hear from him the next day or the next day. And I did something different that I never had done before. I responded to him with the powerful weapon of manipulation that he kept giving me throughout all that time. I responded to him with silence, which is kryptonite to a narcissist. I did not call him. I did not text him. I did nothing more than give him silence. After about 3 days, next thing I know, I get a text from him. Hey, can you call me? Silence. The next day, I miss you. I'm sorry. He's never apologized to me really, like ever, really, especially not no text. Silence. Next day, my front desk calls me. There are flowers for you at the desk. I come down there from him. I left him there. He texts me. Did you get my gift? Silence. I called my therapist. I said, you be proud of me. It's been 5-6 days. I've been giving him silence. She said, and? I said, I stood up to him. She says, no, you're avoiding him. Standing up to him is getting your closure. Standing up to him is setting a boundary. Standing up to this is ending it. If you done, you done. Let him know that. Because all that's going to happen is eventually you going to get tired of the silence. He going to get tired of the silence. And y'all going to be back at square one. Now you doing to him what he does to you, which is give you silence until they break down and give you an apology and you feel like responding. If you done with him, be done with him. Whew, honey. Now don't judge me, okay? But I made up in my mind that we was done. So I finally responded to him and I said, can you come by after work? As soon as he comes by, so y'all don't do this, okay? I'm telling you, this was some toxic stuff, okay? He comes by. As soon as he comes through the door, I open the door and he's standing there like this. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I knew that was fake. I knew it was fake. But I made up in my mind. I was done. I was tired of going through that. So he comes through the door, and immediately when he comes through, I walked up to him, I wrapped my arms around his neck, I kissed him, and I unbuttoned his shirt, undid his pants, pulled him into the bedroom. His pants were around his ankles. He got to walk like this. And I'm pulling him to the bedroom, baby. Now, don't do this. When I tell you, I got that good, so good. I did what I had to do, baby. Honey, I did it like it was the last hurrah. Okay, I did that thing like it was my last meal and we was about to go down death row, and we were. We was about to execute this relationship, and I'm having my last meal, baby. And I made sure it was steak and lobster, okay? I literally, honey, okay? The way he was looking at me was with this look like he just was like mesmerized. But for me, there was a coldness in my eyes. I could feel it, honey. I could feel it. I'm not gonna lie to you. I kind of was just, I objectified him. I'm like, before I send you away, I'm gonna get what I want. Cause you hurt me. It is what it is. I'm not saying to do it that way, but that's what I did. I'm honest about it. And after it was all done, he was like, baby, I'm so happy that we get to work through this, right? And he's about to get up and take a shower. And as he gets up to take a shower, right, he goes in there and he comes out the shower and he's drying off and everything like that. And he's just dripping wet with this towel. And that's all he got is a towel. He's like, baby, I'm sorry. And I thank you for forgiving me. I said, baby, I never said I forgave you. He said, what? I said, I never said I forgave you. He said, so why am I here? I said, you here because of the fact that I needed to let you know that, you know, when you give me silence, It's your way of trying to rope me in and give me a lesson so I can become more compliant and not hold you accountable. But my silence towards you was me building up my strength to leave you. I'm done. We done. He said, what are you talking about? I said, we're done. We're done. You can tell me I'm the most toxic person on earth. You can tell me everything you've been trying to tell me this whole time to try to turn around on me and make me seem like I'm the bad guy. The way that you insult me is you accuse me of the very things that you do. You can say all about me. You can tell our friends, you can tell your family, you can tell whoever that I'm the worst person on earth. But guess what? What you won't be able to tell them is that I'm with you anymore. We're done. He looks, drops the towel. So this time he's wearing nothing, and walks over to the closet to look in there to see was his stuff still in there. Baby, that whole half the closet was empty. Was completely empty. Every drawer was empty. The whole thing was empty. He's like, where my stuff at? I said, baby, your stuff is in boxes. It's downstairs. There's a storage unit that the desk gave us access to. Your stuff is in that storage unit. You can leave your stuff in there for a little while until you find a place. The key to the storage unit is at the desk. He said, are you serious? I said, I'm absolutely serious. And he starts walking towards me. I said, hold on. Before you do that, what I want to make very clear to you is I've let the neighbors know on both sides, so they were my friends, I've let the neighbors know on both sides what I was doing today. And they are home. They are home. And if I scream, if I yell, they have been alerted to call the police immediately. Do you hear me? He said, you know you're real effed up for this. You sick. Something wrong with you. You know how narcissists do. They try to make you like you the bad guy. I said, well, if I'm really that sick or something's that wrong with me, then you shouldn't want to be with me anyway. So get out of my house. Leave. Goodbye. He looked at me. He put his clothes right back on that he came in with, because that was all he had there. I didn't even have his toothbrush still in there. I'm surprised he didn't know while I was taking a shower, right? Nothing was in there. He put his clothes back on. He walks towards me like he wants to hug. I was like, don't touch me. Get out of my house. And he goes to walk around. I was like, oh yeah, and as a reminder, I've changed the locks. I was like, and if you want to go through the route of trying to report me for putting you out or whatever, honey, you can do that. I said, I'd rather sit in a courthouse than have you in my house again. I guarantee you that. I said, and if there's a court on this earth that lets you back in this house, trust and believe the hell you will experience when you come back to this house will make you regret the day that you ever met me. Let me be real clear with you about that. He said, I said, yeah, get out of my house. He walked out. As soon as I closed the door, I dropped down to the ground and I broke down crying. I was so sad. I was sad. I was sad. I was proud of myself, but I was sad for the fact that the dream that I hoped for, the dream that I hoped that he would be able to get better, that we could have a better relationship, that I was just imagining everything. I dreamed, I wish that everything was my fault, because we love to blame ourselves, because if we blame ourselves, we don't have to hold the other person accountable. If we're the only problem, then we can fix it. But when you know the problem is somebody else and they can't be fixed, you got to give up on them. You really can't. You can't be with them. I had to accept that. And I knew I would never see him again, and I cried and I cried and I cried. But eventually that grieving turned to power. That pain turned to power. Because I recognized that I did something for the first time that built a muscle in me that I would forever have within me, which is that I stood up for myself and I decided that you were not going to take advantage of me. No man, nobody was ever going to take advantage of me again. And I'm going to tell you, once you learn that lesson, you will hold on to it forever. If you're in a tough relationship right now, just know that you don't have to stay in it. You can leave, even though it's hard. And once you take that step to leave, let me tell you this, you will build a muscle in you that will prepare you to protect yourself even better the next time. Click like and click share on this. Until next time, remember, I love you, but you gotta love yourself enough to protect yourself and not let toxic people keep access to you.